So I get a lot of phone calls all the time asking me if it's safe to use certain shampoos that you could find at your local drugstore. You know, one of them is kind of herbally, or maybe it has an essence. Fill in the blank. Um, and they ask like, "Oh, is it okay? Is it gonna hurt my color? Is it gonna damage my hair?" And yeah, it's gonna over dry it, and it's gonna definitely strip your color. So I'm here to kind of share some alternatives that you can do if one you don't get a chance to go to the salon and get your favorite product, or maybe you're in that month of budget, because I'm with you on that one. I'm also budgeting too, and and watching also how I spend, so I can sympathize with that. So I have a video of me going to Marshall's, my favorite spot. So I went to two different ones to show you some of the products that they have that I think would be a lot safer than using any shampoo that's talking about giving you some essence or having some herbs. Fill in the blank. And so it's just something that I think would be a little bit safer. Now, I just want to just remind you that those products, we don't know how long they've been sitting on shelves. Obviously, they were once sitting in the shelf of a salon, or maybe the actual distributors, whatever. Like, we really don't know when it was made, when it was sitting on a shelf, and when it got to this other store. So sometimes they're not as fresh. So sometimes you could find something that could be rancid. I mean, the chances are really low, but just know that their ingredients aren't going to be as strong and as effective as buying something that's going from manufacturer to the salon. But I do think that this is also a much safer and a different option, in between those times when we're just kind of like being more cautious of how we're spending our money. So I'd rather you use that than go buy anything with any essence or any herbs and at any convenient drugstore. So I just think like this might be a better option for you. So I hope you enjoy the tour, but I'll talk to you later. Okay, so this is Marshall's number one. This is Marshall's in Laverne, and they have so much stuff, like way more than Monrovia. It's so overwhelming. So I was trying to look in here also for like deep conditioning treatments, which is on that very bottom, but I couldn't find anything really good. I only found like two stuff. But anyways, they have like a ton of Joico. Joico, I know, is a pretty decent line. I used to love it back in my 20s and late, like all throughout my whole 20s. Yeah, early and late 20s. I used Joico a lot. So this is actually a really good product. I couldn't understand why they had so much stock on it, but they did. And then I found Curlsmith, which I've become such a fan of Curlsmith for all my curly haired girls. This is a really good line, and this is like a really good spot that I don't know why Marshall's always has Curlsmith all the time. So if you can't find stuff like at Ulta, and sometimes it's a little less expensive at Marshall's than at Ulta. Then I found Verb. They also had an abundance of Verb also, and they had for like color safe, for fine hair, for blonding, and they were pretty good prices too, because the big ones were like at $12.99 and stuff. Now here on the bottom part, I don't know half that stuff there, but I kind of tried to look around, but I don't really, nothing looked appealing at all. But again, I was looking down here for some deep conditioning treatments, I did find for Curlsmith, and I found one that was a Verb. So those areas you have to kind of really search a lot for. Um, and then they had castor oil. Honestly, when it comes to castor oil, because it isn't oil, anything with oil, I would suggest buying it from the actual website of the company and buying a fresh batch of that, because I have bought some before, like on Amazon, and it was rancid, it was not good. So now I just always buy my castor oil straight from the source. I found wheat. I was like, what? Yeah, so you can find little gems like this. Also, 10 is a pretty good product. It's not that bad. I used to kind of recommend that at times for people when they were kind of, needed something quick. But yeah, the Verb, I was even tempted to buy some for myself, to be honest, because they had so much of it. But anyways, so I went over here to the hairsprays and the dry shampoos. I found Sebastian. I love Sebastian hairspray. They do have the Batista dry shampoo. That stuff stinks. It's horrible. I used it years ago and it trashed my hair. I suggest don't go near it. Here's like tons of hair accessories. I mean, there is so many hair accessories, and the brushes. They have like the wet detangling brushes, and they have them at a good price. And they have for the what is it? The dry curling rod things that you can sleep with them on. They have a ton of those there, and they have them at a really good price. Here I'm at Monrovia now. Now Monrovia also had so much Verb, and also the caviar. That caviar stuff is pretty good. I remember using that years ago too. It's not a bad line. Again, there's my Sebastian hairspray. Love it. One of my favorites. I don't know why. Ever since I was 19, 20, I've always loved using that stuff. But anyways, I did find Living Proof. Living Proof is also another good alternative as well. When you're kind of like in that in between salon visits and you need something quick, it is a really great alternative. Instead of using like Suave or Herbal Essence, I don't want to bash it, but sometimes it could be a bit drying, can strip your color. And then over on the end of the aisle shelves, sometimes you can find some really cool stuff in there. And you could find some treatments here. I found a Curlsmith treatment. Treatments are kind of hard. I don't really know too much of like a lot of those product lines, but here again, Marshalls and Monrovia, they have like a ton of brushes. I one time found one of my favorite round brushes, which is Olivia Garden. And they had it. I kicked myself that I didn't buy it. But because that sometimes you could find those rarities in there. And you could totally benefit. But this is just a little bit of a tour. Hope it helps.